Hey Hardin County, it's Michelle Labus. It is March 6th and we had another commissioners meeting. It was kind of a fun one. We got a lot of information to share with you, so stick all the way to the end. So Holli Underwood came in with the Hardin County Chamber Business and Alliance for their monthly update. So yesterday they had this big long 5-year strategic planning day. It was from like 9 to 4. It was really good. It was just too long. It kind of takes it out of you, but they've had several new board members and they wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page and that they are redefining their purpose. She said that it is a group that's able to change and adapt with time rather than being stuck with a purpose, an old purpose, I guess. So she thought it was really good. They're really looking forward to moving forward with their plan. Now I'm going to run through this. I've got a whole page of notes, but I was able to follow along with some of the things that she is talking about. Maybe I'm getting used to it. Maybe she slowed down a little bit, although she is a pretty fast talker. So we have zoning, like, I forget what they call it. It's the business attraction and development. So when you bring people in for economic development, you give them tax incentives, you do different things to entice them to come in. I know, I think it was Golden Graphics that they don't pay certain property taxes, but they pay directly to the school, which is good, except for the school has a ton of money that we can't regulate. And so personal decision, it maybe is not great that they're spending their tax money on the schools rather than into the general fund. But that's a whole nother video. We're going to talk about the schools and the 20 mil floor, so you'll hear about this a little bit later. But she met with Stillwater and Wilson and Associated Plastics and those to see how they're doing. They have to re-up their contracts and those kinds of things. So they did that. She had a manufacturing call in and somebody interested in doing job creation and expansion. So there's somebody that's already here. They want to expand their business. RGP was there to help with that. They had somebody come in about a new business, and they were able to hook them up with some small business resources and a business over at Rhodes, those kinds of things. So that was kind of cool. Eric Oldham came to their last meeting and presented. It's workforce first diversity is the name that he works with. It's a workforce specialist, and I went and looked it up because I was interested to see what because I don't know if it was on Facebook, it popped up, and so I went to look at their thing, and it looked very DEI oriented, very inclusive and all those kind of things, but to come to find out that it's actually for drug rehabilitation, or if you have a felony, more in the criminal jurisdiction. People, if anybody who's had a felony, it's very difficult to get a job. And so, this company will hire, they'd be like a temp agency. They would hire these at-risk people and then bring them to your company so that you don't have the risk. So the parent company doesn't have the risk because they're not insuring them if it doesn't work out, or if anything happens to that employee. That's on the first diversity workforce rather than on our local businesses. So that was what that was more about. They had an industrial site owner meeting to talk about how to improve their sites, because if you watch the national news, you know that a lot of businesses are coming back to America with the tariffs. There's kind of a big push for them to come back. And so we could really see where maybe our economic sites are not great in a sparse economy, but become much more valuable when you have a flood of manufacturers coming in and you're not able to get parts overseas, you know, because then they're going to be tariffed, and so it's just easier to and cheaper to build a parts distributor here, where maybe they're making several different parts for like you know, a local business, and then, you know, your parts are local, you can ship them out, that kind of thing. And so hopefully getting our sites ready and prepared that when these companies are looking, because they'll be looking now, right? You may not see a company come in for 2 or 3 years, but they're looking now, they're scouting out, kind of see, you know, our workforce and what we have to offer. And so that is happening very quickly here. So they're working on that. They had a joint meeting in March that they went through. Community development. Oh yeah, the Community Grant Foundation. So they're working with the Historic District Courthouse in coordination with that. So the Community Grant Foundation, they opened up their applications for February. So everybody got their stuff in and now waiting to hear back from them. They had a Market on Main meeting with the farmers market, so that's a go for this year. The district digest went out, so I guess they have a newsletter that they sent out to all their members. I think they said they had over 100 members. They had a legislative meeting with the city, and I will be talking about that. That's has to do with Jones Road, where they tried to rezone it earlier into an M2, and that got denied, and so they're coming back to ask for rezoning on that again. But first they are changing the legislation. So the legislation that is part of that M1, M2 zoning is old. It's from the 60s, so some of the things have fallen off. They don't do it anymore, like asbestos. I don't know that you're allowed to use asbestos anymore. And so they're going and fixing the back end, fixing the legislation so that it is more appealing, and it puts, you know, it kind of gives comfort in, you know, the options of what can go into an M2, what can go into an M1, and then they'll move forward with zoning. Again, huge opportunities. We want to have all our land available that we can. They talked about the 250-year celebration coming up. Is it in 26? That the museum, the Freedom Festival, Tree Town, Eats on the Streets is all in that July timing, and so kind of coordinating maybe that 250 celebration with all those things. What, you know, just was a discussion with the commissioners. They talked about, so Holli talked about they're going to separate their annual meeting and their awards banquet. They're going to move the awards banquet more to April and have it a special event, and then their annual meeting will just be a side. She said even maybe virtual. They're only going over elections and like financials. You know, it's something that has to be done at a certain time, but not anything that you have to make a big to-do out of. And so kind of separating those things so that you get more focus. It's not such a long day for them. Oh, she also mentioned that she meets with, you know, all these other things that she's doing. I know the last couple times we've talked, she's met with a lot of companies, you know, and little industries, a lot of like Job Ohio, but she also meets with a lot of Alliance people and different members throughout the month, and so she wanted to highlight that. She talked about the members' benefits on their website, logging in. And now I don't know if they're going to add some of these things or it is already part of their thing. I think, you know, they have their portal, their news. You can sign up for different events. You can do that on a mobile app. And then I guess they're going to have a chat forum for their members to go back and forth. So that's a thing. And then it was kind of interesting. She turned to the commissioners and said, you know, what are your ideas if you guys see things that are of value, that she wants to, you know, take the commissioners' ideas and incorporate them into her job as economic development, which from a local government standpoint, the commissioner's job is economic development, and so when they take that out, so they take out conveyance fees and the rolling loan and something else. There's another fee that they take out from that come into our county, that's taken right off the top and given to the chamber, I guess, for salaries and for, you know, I assume we have a savings account, you know, with them where we're building money and advertising and, you know, luncheons and whatever it is that, you know, you're trying to sell property to these investors. And so that money goes right up. Now, the conveyance fees is a cap of $90,000. Now, the city also, Kenton, gives money to the chamber, which is a, you know, particular amount. I don't know what that amount is, that, you know, they're using that for the benefit of economic development. So if you think about, it is the commissioner's job to direct economic development, and they've taken that out along with that money and given it to the chamber. And Holli, she has a special title, you know, kind of a government side title that gives her the authority to pursue economic development, right? But it really is the commissioner's job to set a vision and a direction. And so it's just interesting that she comes back and says, you know, well, what do you guys think? Of course, our guys didn't have anything to say. You know, they were like, you know, we don't have anything. They don't have any ideas or vision for Hardin County in that kind of means. But it is interesting. I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of this video because the afternoon meetings are particularly interesting. So that was Holli. So she had lots to report. Sharon Huston, so she came in at 1:30 for her monthly update, I guess, of Hardin Hills. This is going to kind of mush in with this other video I'm going to do for you guys, but they did go, well, they're moving records. So this whole thing of why we have, I think we only have 4 people working out there now. Jerry's out there, Nancy and Sharon that I know of, that they have all these, so they have all these personnel records, and they've scanned all those in and are shredding them. Okay, so I'm assuming we're paying top dollar to have these things scanned in. And then they have all the medical records of the residents, which I've seen the room. It's huge. It's just packed full of all these, you know, shelves of these records. So I'm gonna have to get the quote, but they got a quote from Chris, the IT guy, to scan these records in. So Chris is not, from what I understand, has not been scanning records in. I know he helped them with all their laptops and probably setting it up on the cloud and getting servers or whatever they had to do. But he has a quote out there that they've approved to have him scan all these medical records in and get them up to the cloud. If you watch the meeting, it is very confusing about, are you keeping the boxes? Are you shredding the boxes? Who's scanning the boxes? When are they being scanned? Why are you moving them? I mean, it was a little bit crazy. We actually had to go back and ask questions to clarify, because it wasn't, you couldn't follow the stream of thought. But from what I gather, with Tim Thomas's help, is that they have to have everything out of Hardin Hills in the next 2 weeks. So the health department's getting their car seats out, these boxes are getting out, everything's going to be gone and empty in the next 2 weeks. They're moving the personnel or the residence boxes over to the north annex where the soil and water is. They have to get shelves, they have to work all that out, and they have to box up all these records in the next 2 weeks and get them moved out there so that they can be scanned by Chris. And then once they're uploaded to the cloud, then they can shred the existing documents, and then somebody will have access to the cloud to get records and those kinds of things. And so it's just very confusing of why they're in a rush. Like, what is the 2-week time period that they have to get everything out of this building? And we will talk about that in the next video. But Other than that, I think they're looking at like 200 boxes, 150 to 200 boxes that they're going to try and ship over here. So gives you a little vision of what's going on. But for now, I'll do this as part 1, and then we'll have part 2. We're going to come back and talk about Vancrest. All right, see you later.